When these cottages were built, the road that we're standing on did not exist. Access was either through the field directly from the road or down through the barnyard of the local farm. When the purchase was made, Burnell undertook to deed and build a road, which is the one we're on now. Behind where Scott is, if you can get Scott, is an old wire fence. It looks old now. Prior to it was a cedar rail snake fence. And if you look carefully right down here, there's one of them. You can see where one of the snakes came out and back in again. The point I want to make was this was beautiful reddish colored loam. And as a kid, we played there rather than playing down at the lakefront with sand not so good. Toby Lucas and myself built all kinds of things out of this kind. Castles were easy to make. A lot of that was taken by wheelbarrow across over here, and where these chairs sit now was a croquet lawn built by grandfather. At approximately the corner of that cottage, there was a stone wall ran across, approximately maybe 18 inches, 2 feet high, which was level above, and then you drop down to the lower grass.
I well remember climbing over that wall as a kid.
And there were some logs along there too.
Well, tell us about this cottage then.
Maybe before you do, I understand that, is this true that when the road was going to be put in, it was going to be put in right along the shore all the way along? And your grandpa, my great-grandpa said, I want to come behind?
I should have said this. One of the conditions that he made on the purchase of the property was that the road must be behind. That's how it got back here.
So it wasn't, like you said, there was not a road already in place.
No.
So they changed it. Okay.
Now, after renting the next cottage up on the hill, Colors, my father and your grandfather decided that they would try and build another cottage on the same site and rotate back and forth with grandmother and the other cottage. That was in the beginning of this one. It was built not by local help, but by a couple of carpenters that came up from Toronto. It has some misgivings, size of bedrooms and so on, because it was squeezed into a small space.
Sure. And what year was it built, Uncle Frank?
I think it was built about 1930. I'm guessing on that date.
Tell us about the Beatties.
Yes, and it was the Beatties. Beattie himself was a builder in Toronto. He was a journeyman carpenter. He came up and got some help, and this is probably one of the best built cottages in the whole road. He spared nothing, and he knew exactly what he was doing. It's been changed inside. The outside dimension is still the same. Oh, there's a little thing on the front, isn't there? I forgot about that. I think they put a small addition on the front.
They used to have an outside porch. The front right corner used to be an outside porch, eating porch.
I really don't know what they've done inside.
Yeah, and then
except that he has a bedroom in that corner, or a bedroom. Frank has.
Right.
Oh, right. Beattie was a customer of Kent Ockley, and the Kinsinger family, and I think it was in the name of Roy Kinsinger, owned this lot. But he was persuaded to sell it to the good customers of Frank and Russ. The next two cottages we come to, Monaghan's and what's the new, recently sold, I forget the name.
I think it's Killam.
Killam. These two cottages were built at the same time and were identical. One was owned by a brother and the other one by a sister. The names of Barbers and Goulds. They didn't stay here too many years, and now the additions and the changes inside and outside the cottages just don't look similar at all.
And if we walk a little further, we can get a little better view of the second one here. What year would the Herons have bought the cottage where the Monahans are today?
It's probably in the 30s, but that's just a wild guess on my part. This one, this one originally built and owned by Goulds was sold to the Mainprize family. And I don't know whether you fellows know that the Mainprize is short-tailed cousins of Kinsinger. That's right. Yep. All of Mainprize's mother was a first cousin of my mother.
Of your mother?
Yep. And this is an instance where the eldest of the family was married and raising children while her parents were still having children, so we have aunts being younger than nieces.
Yeah.
This cottage was the next cottage built along the road after Kinsinger, which puts it about 1924. It was built and owned by Dr. Roper, a dentist from Toronto, and he was a brother of the Roper family that we looked at a way back. Perhaps to you people particularly, it might be interesting to know that Frank and Louise, you figure out who they are. Frank and Louise rented this cottage for one season. It had outdoor plumbing, amongst other things, which wasn't very handy. At the time that your father, Ted, was a matter of weeks or months old. You can figure that out. I can't to the summer.
Sure.
And
well, his birthday was July 31st.
Okay, so he might have been a year old.
Right.
Whatever year that might be, that might help you to identify that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I can remember as a kid, I was a little bit older, coming down and babysitting, and also staying during the night, during the week when Louise was alone.
Yeah. Huh.
It's changed hands several times.
And that takes us to the next one, does it?
It what?
That brings us
to Shores.
To Shores.
That brings us to Shores. I know practically nothing about that except it was, I think, the last cottage built in the Grove. And they bought it, I think, what, 8 years ago, was it?
Maybe more than that now.
8 or 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And they've done a lot to it.
We're out front of the Shores, obviously.
Any outsider seeing these should know that Marion Shore is my sister.
Right.
The cottage was built by Walter Percy's family and has been moved closer to the lake. It used to be quite a bit this way. And the reason so far back was it was deep, deep swamp between the cottage and the lake. For many years it was impossible to go from the front door directly to the lake. They had to come back and go down this lane which is adjacent to it over here. Frisbee was known to my father. They grew up in the same little village of Victoria Square. His father was the local blacksmith. My grandfather was the local butcher.
Frank has referred to. And you can see right through the lake, and the fairly thick foliage on either side of this laneway.
This is a private lane which was reserved for the use of the buildings behind us, these small cottages, one of which, of course, was built into a permanent residence. But this is their access to the lake. It's the one that Frisbee's used for a good many years.
Huh. All right.